All right, so we've got a pretty hefty stack of articles and blog posts here all about OpenAI's DevDay 2024.
Yeah, lots to dig into
Seems
there.
like you're really interested in what's new with AI.
Definitely. And it seems like OpenAI had a lot to announce.
Hmm.
New tools, changes to the company. It's a lot.
It is, and especially since you're interested in how AI can be used in the real world, practical applications, we'll focus on that.
Perfect.
Like, for example, this new Realtime API, they announced that, right? That seems like a big deal if we want AI to sound, well, less like a robot.
It could be huge. The real-time API could completely change how we interact with AI. Like imagine if your voice assistant could actually handle it if you interrupted it.
Or like have an actual conversation.
Right, not just these clunky back and forth things we're used to.
And they actually showed it off, didn't they? I read something about a travel app, one for languages, even one where the AI ordered takeout.
Those demos were really interesting, and I think they show how this real-time API can be used in so many ways. And the tech behind it is fascinating, by the way. It uses persistent WebSocket connections and this thing called function calling, so it can respond in real time.
So the function calling thing, that sounds kind of complicated. Can you, explain how that works?
So imagine giving the AI access to this whole toolbox,
Yeah.
right? Information, capabilities, all sorts of things.
Okay.
So take the travel agent demo, for example. With function calling, the AI can pull up details, let's say about Fort Mason, right, from some database, like nearby restaurants, stuff like that.
Ah, I get it. So instead of being limited to what it already knows, it can go and find the information it needs, like a human travel agent would.
Precisely.
Mm.
And someone on Hacker News pointed out a cool detail. The API actually gives you a text version of what's being said, so you can store that, analyze it.
That's smart. It seems like OpenAI put a lot of thought into making this API easy for developers to use. But while we're on OpenAI, besides their tech, there's been some news about internal changes too. Didn't they say they're moving away from being a nonprofit?
They did. And it's got everyone talking. It's a major shift, and it's only natural for people to wonder how that'll change things for OpenAI in the future. I mean, there are definitely some valid questions about this move to for-profit, like will they have more money for research now? Probably. But will they, care as much about making sure AI benefits everyone?
Yeah, that's the big question, especially with all the leadership changes happening at OpenAI too, right? I read that their chief research officer left, and their VP of research, and even their CTO.
It's true. A lot of people are connecting those departures with the changes in OpenAI's structure.
And I guess it makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. But they are still putting out new stuff. Like this whole fine-tuning thing really caught my eye.
Right, fine-tuning. It's essentially taking a pre-trained AI model and customizing it.
So instead of a general AI, you get one that's tailored for a specific job.
Exactly. And that opens up so many possibilities, especially for businesses. Imagine you could train an AI on your company's data, like how you communicate your brand guidelines.
So it's like having an AI that's specifically trained for your company.
That's the idea.
And they're doing it with images now too, right? Fine-tuning with vision is what they called it.
It's pretty incredible what they're doing with that, especially in fields like medicine.
Like using AI to help doctors make diagnoses.
Exactly. An AI could be trained on thousands of medical images, right? And then it could potentially spot things that even a trained doctor might miss.
That's kind of scary, to be honest. What if it gets it wrong?
Well, the idea isn't to replace doctors, but to give them another tool, help them make better decisions.
Okay, that makes sense. But training these AI models must be really expensive.
It can be. All those tokens add up. But OpenAI announced something called automatic prompt caching.
Automatic what now? I don't think I came across that.
So basically, if your AI sees a prompt that it's already seen before, OpenAI will give you a discount.
Huh. Like a frequent buyer program for AI.
Kind of, yeah. It's good that they're trying to make it more affordable. And they're also doing something called model distillation.
Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart. What's that?
Think of it like a recipe, right? You can take a really complex recipe and break it down to the essential parts.
Make it simpler, but it still tastes the same.
Yeah. And that's what model distillation is. You take a big, powerful AI model and create a smaller, more efficient version.
So it's like lighter weight, but still just as capable.
Exactly. And that means more people can actually use these powerful tools. They don't need a supercomputer to run them.
So they're making AI more accessible. That's great.
It is. And speaking of powerful tools, they also talked about their new O1 model. That's the one they've been hyping up, the one that's supposed to be this big leap forward.
Yeah, oh, one. It sounds pretty futuristic. Like, from what I read, it's not just a bigger, better language model.
Right, it's a different approach.
They're saying it can, like, actually reason, right? Think differently.
It's trained differently. They used reinforcement learning with O1.
So it's not just finding patterns in the data it's seen before.
Not just that, it can actually learn from its mistakes, get better at solving problems.
So give me an example. What can O1 do that, say, GPT-4 can't?
Well, OpenAI showed it doing some pretty impressive stuff with math, like advanced math,
Yeah.
and coding too, complex coding, things that even GPT-4 struggled with.
So you're saying if I needed to, like, write a screenplay, I'd stick with GPT-4, but if I wanted to solve some crazy physics problem, O1 is what I'd use.
Something like that, yeah. Although there is a trade-off. O1 takes a lot more power to run, and it takes longer to get those impressive results.
Makes sense. More power, more time, higher quality.
Exactly.
It sounds like it's still in development, though, right? Is there anything else they're planning to add to it?
Oh, yeah. They
Yeah.
mentioned system prompts, which will let developers, like, set some ground rules for how it behaves. And they're working on adding structured outputs and function calling.
Wait, structured outputs. Didn't we just talk about that?
We did. That's the thing where the AI's output is formatted in a way that's easy to use, like JSON.
Right, right. So you don't have to spend all day trying to make sense of what it gives you. It's good that they're thinking about that stuff.
It's about making these tools usable. And speaking of that, DevDay finished up with this really interesting talk. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and Kevin Weil, their new chief product officer. They talked about, like, the big picture for AI.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Anything interesting come up?
Well, Altman talked about moving past this whole AGI term, artificial general intelligence.
I can see why. It's kind of a loaded term, isn't it?
He thinks it's become a bit of a buzzword, and people don't really understand what it means.
So are they saying they're not trying to build AGI anymore?
It's more like they're saying they're focused on just making AI better, constantly improving it, not worrying about putting it in a box.
That makes sense. Keep pushing the limits.
Exactly. But they were also very clear about doing it responsibly. They talked a lot about safety and ethics.
Yeah, that's important.
They said they were going to be very careful about how they release new features.
Good, because this stuff is powerful.
It is. It was a lot to take in, this whole Dev Day event, new tools, big changes at OpenAI, and these big questions about the future of AI.
It was. But hopefully this deep dive helped make sense of some of it. At least that's what we try to do here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.